Oh my goodness. Today, you guys, I'm going to introduce you to one of my closest and dearest and most amazing friends ever. Her name is Liz Nieves. She and I actually met in school at the NTA. She has a very interesting life story. She has an incredible relationship with Jesus. I cannot wait for you to hear her story, meet her, laugh, and cry with us today. It's a great conversation. Enjoy. Oh, we got your daughter running in the background and my dog barking in the background. This is a really great start.
You know what? This happened before with, thank you, my love. With the girl that I did the interview in the podcast, and then she's out in Ireland. I just realized I don't have earrings on.
I think you're fine. You look beautiful, darling. You don't need any earrings.
Okay. Run to the bathroom and get me my big hoops. Hurry, 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 hurry. My big hoops. Hurry. I'm not joking. I'll die. That is one of my biggest pet peeves. I have left the house without earrings and I've had to stop at a store and buy earrings.
Are you serious?
I'm not joking. This is one of the things. Hair, nails, earrings, and my bougie water.
The bougie water. Do you have anything that you like to have in your water?
I do. So I don't do a lot of the electrolytes that taste like anything because I don't like my water flavored. I do a lot of the trace minerals that we were given in California by our integrative oncologist. And that's pretty much what's in my water all the time. But I've noticed that when I do sauna, and obviously when it gets extra hot here, then definitely I should be putting in further electrolytes, but I haven't really found one that I truly love because they're all flavored and I don't like flavored water.
Yeah.
Most people like flavored water, but I don't.
Yeah, they're all the flavors start to run together and even taste the same to me after a while. And it's just kind of like, I don't know. I haven't found an electrolyte that I'm sold on yet. There's some that I really like, but yeah. And I think it can depend on the day too. And if I want something more salty or no flavor at all, or yeah.
For me, I prefer no flavor at all. I just feel like those things have a lot of, I can taste the sweetness of them. And I've never really had much of a sweet tooth. And the other thing is that as I've been detoxing from sugar, even just in my food, holy moly, I cannot have, oh my God, I cannot. The other day I tried, I'm not joking. You know those tiny little spoons that people put at like little hors d'oeuvre parties that like this big?
Yeah.
I used one of those to try a carrot cake, like one of the bundt cakes, a carrot cake one, not with the frosting, just the carrot cake part. Oh, Lord Jesus. I couldn't take it. And I remember I used to enjoy at least some of it. Oh my God. I was like, oh my God, why did I do this? I just felt that little tiny spoon for like what I think would have been was like the last, 2 hours later. I was like, okay, now I remember I don't do this amount of sugar at all.
It's wild. It's wild when you stop doing the sugar thing and that just tiny little bit, oh my goodness, you can feel the process in your body. And it's just like, why did I do that?
And I think that the mind-body connection that's what starts to get really good, right? Once you start to be aware and start to have specific lifestyle practices, your body automatically starts to connect. There's no way to do it otherwise. Like it just kind of falls into place. And then your body will I always say this, your body's always going to tell you before your mind wraps a thought around what's happening.
Yeah.
And so the more and more you connect to your body, the more you're going to realize if something is for you or working against you. And it's actually fun. It's like a little science experiment.
It is a science experiment. It is really fun. It's like, well, this
lab rat. Exactly. You do that? Yeah, I'm one. I'm my own lab rat. Oh my goodness. Been doing this all through school, right? Like you and I were like, did you try that? I did this or that. Yeah. We're really our first guinea pigs.
I know, right? I was trying to remember how we kind of met too. I think it was actually the very first live class. We were in a small group together.
Yes.
And I think we all exchanged Instagram handles or whatnot. I think yours was the only one that I was able to actually catch in that small amount of time. And I friended you.
Yes. Thank the Lord Jesus.
And then like the next week or 2 weeks on, I noticed that you liked all the same posts and people that I liked.
You were scoping me out.
Well, it just, because when you like shows, the other people that you're friends with shows it too. And I was like, oh, this chick's cool.
Or just as crazy as I am. That's great.
It's just crazy. Yeah. I was like, wait a minute. We might be two birds of a feather.
Thank God. Thank God you reached out. I mean, I look back and I was in such a funky place at that time.
Oh, girl.
Really, really glad.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were in the middle of the cancer. I mean, we were, yeah, that was September of 2023. So we were very much in that game. And I mean, back then it was like you would just kind of like, and I would cry, cry for any little thing. But yeah, I'm glad that you reached out because that's it. Our friendship blossomed.
Yeah. And then we became study buddies and
Yeah.
yeah. It
And you
was
say you're still my 411, still my Google, Google it.
my little nerdy brain for you. There you go.
And then I'm like your cheerleader.
That's right. My hype girl.
Your hype girl. So thank God. No, and I think it's so great to have friendships like that. And especially at this age, it's hard to, I think with women, not everybody cheers for each other and that kind of sucks. So the fact that we were able to do that and do that over Zoom and we've never really met in person, that's insane.
I can't wait to meet you in person someday. I look forward to it.
We won't twerk on video, but we'll do something like it. Something. We're gonna do
Wild,
something wild. I mean, you know,
something
it's gotta be
crazy.
signature of us. So
I know. It was funny. I was actually talking with my son this morning kind of about you, and I was really excited about this, moment. And I said, yeah, I said, I grew up in the Midwest, and my first introduction to anything Cuban was my sophomore year of high school. All of us, Midwest farm, whatever, city folk, we're in a marching band geek nerds. I mean, the epitome of like nerds. And we had our theme for the year was Cuban fire. And so we had Cuban jazz music, which
wow.
I don't think is a thing. That was like the music. And then, but I was in the color guard. So like I had a full bodysuit that was like this metallic bright red. And then we had a skirt with like tulle strips of different colors to look like fires. We had like skirts that looked like
an interesting take. But thank God you just didn't do like a fruit headpiece because that would have just put you guys over.
Oh my goodness. We did go to state that year. I think we got 9th or 10th. I don't remember. We were in the top 10 in state, but that was like all I knew of really Cuban until I met you. And I'm like, oh, that's Cuban fire. She's the Cuban fire. I've been missing this my whole life. This is amazing.
Yeah. The other day we were at the beach. We were at the beach this past weekend with my son's graduation class. And then we met this couple from Tennessee. And, they were asking about Cuba. And it was very interesting because it's interesting for me to always see the questions they have and their understanding of what is Cuba is to the reality that we know. And especially people like me who are one, I'm from there. And a lot of the people my age were born here, or at least the people that are, second and third generation here, where I'm not. And also the way that they interpret like Cuba, what's happening in Cuba now. So it's interesting to see that and see the kind of view that they have and how skewed it is because of what's on Google, really. Like I was like, if you're going off
very limited,
pretty wrong. 98% of it is wrong.
It's on Google, Hollywood, TV, like news. That's all we get. So what was Cuba like for you growing up? And what age did you leave? So
I left, I was 7.5.
Okay. So you have some probably solid memories from there then.
Yeah. No, of course. I mean, obviously my house that we had, I lived in my mom, the house had land on both sides and it was 3 houses. My mom had built our house on top of my aunt's house. And I remember we used to have to go upstairs and I'll never forget, I have a memory of, I've always done like hair treatments. My family's always been like, you got to take care of your hair and your scalp. And so I remember being really little and they would be mixing up and whipping up like avocado with eggs.
What?
And then they would make this whip, right? Avocado, eggs, olive oil, and then put that into like, kind of like how they dye your hair, kind of filter that in. And then they would put like a little cap and you would leave this on for like an hour and then wash your hair out. It is phenomenal for your scalp and your hair. And so it's funny, but I still do. Now I don't do it with the avocado and the eggs here. I do a special blend of oils that I do now. And I still do my hair treatment every month. It's crazy, but just those practices that I have from over there. I mean, I remember the ice cream place that we used to walk to. I remember that we used to get up like at 5 o'clock in the morning and go to a bakery that would be smelled like bread that was just being made. I
Okay.
know it was phenomenal.
Yeah.
So I remember that. I mean, I remember, of course, the bad stuff, which was I would go to school, and in school you have to, it's a lot of the Marxist ideals, and so it's obviously communism. So you cannot say anything that is like pro-America because America's the imperialist and the bad people. And then I would get home and my mom would ask me, what did you learn today? And I would tell her all these things that were against America and freedom and all this stuff. And she'd be like, okay, that's all a lie. But in front of them, you got to keep saying yes. And here, we're just going to, we just have to pretend. So it's almost like a dual life.
At such a young age.
Yeah. Yeah. So when I got here, like I said, I got here November 2nd, 1984. And I turned 8 in January, and I was in second grade. They put me in second grade when I got here. And I remember thinking, these kids are not that smart. And it was, it's awful. It wasn't that. It's, now I look back and I'm like, it's not that these kids weren't that smart. It's just they were kids. I was really 8 going on 30, and so I was always a very grown up. My experiences of life were very, very mature experiences that really no child should be going through. So yeah, and there was a lot of positives to it too. I mean, I don't regret my life in any way. And my mom definitely and my family did the absolute best that they could with what they had.
Was it whose decision was it for you guys to come to the States then? Was that your mom or?
So it was everybody was trying to leave. So what happened is that in the Mario boat lift, which was 1980, my uncle, who had come here in the 60s when Fidel first took over, my uncle was able to leave. One of my uncles. My mom's one of 6. And he's the one that during the Mario boat lift was able to secure a boat and go to Cuba and start. And the way that it worked is that you could take family members, but you also had to take on people that the government wanted you to take, i.e. Fidel emptied the jails. And
sounds about right.
empty the psych wards. Okay. That's what was being sent out. It was very purposely done. And then you could, as a byproduct, take some of your family. Our boat was full. And so my uncle was going to go back for my mom, myself, my cousin, and my aunt and my other cousin. They closed the Mariel boat lift. And so they were never able to get back and get us out. So my family was here, typical Cuban family story where it was like 15 to a 2-bedroom apartment, and they used to work mechanics. They were mechanics. They opened up a shop and they were working like animals, and they were able to find out about a guy that was smuggling Cubans out of Panama. And so my mom was a shoemaker in Cuba, which was basically dealing drugs. You were a drug dealer if you were a shoemaker or a jewelry maker, which is what my family did. And so some of the people that worked for the government were friends with my mom and cared a lot about my mother. So my mom used to help them and give them free shoes and all this stuff to be able to do the contraband that we did. It was contraband to sell. It's, free market. That doesn't exist there. So my mom, through all her hookups and friends, was able to secure 3 visas, one for me, one for my cousin, who I call my brother, and my mother. And so we were able to secure a visa to get us to Panama. And then my uncles and my family had raised back then, which is an insane amount of money, $10,000 to smuggle all 3 of us out. And so the whole thing is that we arrived in Panama. We were basically put up into, I'll never forget this because it was these apartments that it was a bunch of families in that were above a fire station in Panama. I don't even know where, and then we had to stay there. And it was crazy because we were living with a lot of people that we never met. And it was just kind of like a safe house kind of thing. And then they were like, okay, we will let you know when it's time to leave. So you really just had to wait until this guy. And so it was a small little prop plane that was in the middle of the Amazon jungle. And I'll never forget it because it was crazy. So my mom, and I'll step back a second, but we were living in these apartments, and my mom was like, this is not safe. I don't feel good. It was just her with 2 young children. I was 7. I call him my brother. He was, and David was 12. Okay.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And so she found out about a friend, through a friend, that there was another lady who had a house that she was renting, and she was there by herself with her kid. And my mom's like, hey, can I go and I'll pay you and I'll stay there with you because I really don't want my kids with this. That lady was so disgusting. It was disgusting. We have very disgusting, funny stories now, but they weren't then. We ended up getting lice when we were there because the house was disgusting. She wouldn't clean anything. Were sleeping on the floor on these like basically on sheets, and then we would wake up with roaches dead underneath us because roaches were crawling everywhere. It was so gross. And so it was disgusting. And my mom, one of the days, lost it, and she grabbed the hose and hosed down the entire house. There was no furniture. It was practically no furniture in the house. My mom spent like an entire day that the lady had left and cleaned the entire house. There were no more roaches the next day, and it was, I'm telling you, insane. Anyways, then they waited there for what I believe was like about a month and a half until the guy was like, okay, this is the night. And so I remember like at 4 a.m, we had to run to a meeting place in the middle of the jungle, which we could have been sold for body parts, for God's sakes. And once again, I want to emphasize that it is my mom, who is 48 years old, by herself with 2 children. And I think she did such an amazing job because I never felt it was a game. I don't have a memory that is not a good memory. And that I have to attribute to my mom's insane strength. And if I ask her now, she's like, oh my God, I was dying. I was so scared. And I'm like, you did an amazing job at hiding it. Right? You know, it's amazing what parents can do for their children.
Gosh, yeah.
We would play hide and go seek. To us, we were just like on a vacation that we had never been to. Yeah.
Right. Just on an adventure.
Yeah, it was crazy. And I tell her, I'm
Poor
like,
mom.
I know. She's such a, I always say I didn't have a dad, but I had a mom that accounted for multiple dads. It was, yeah. Wow. And so then we finally left. That plane landed in the water in Bimini. It was one of those planes that landed like in the water or whatever. It was supposed to, it had 5 seats here and 5 seats here, and then the luggage in the back. We sat on top of the luggage, the 3 of us. So we were never in seats. We were just sitting on the luggage in the back, and we got into a storm on the way. We had to go over Cuba, and we got into a major storm, and the plane would just drop like 30. People started throwing up. People were peeing in their pants. People were crying and screaming. And my mom was just kind of holding us like this, one on each arm. And I remember my brother, he kept saying like, please kill me. I don't want to die drowning. He just kept screaming that. He was so scared. And I was very quiet. I've always said this, and if you know me, I've always said, I'm not the girl that you call to like chit chat about stupid stuff. I'm the girl when the shit hits the fan. And so I am like normal, like, oh, you know, I'm like, man, I think I should have been like a Navy SEAL or something, but I was very quiet, and I'm just paying attention to the pilot because you could see straight into the cockpit. And I was just like, if this guy loses it, then I know it's over. Right. And I just kept looking at him. I didn't care.
Smart at that age to have that knowledge and understanding to pay attention to him. My goodness.
But remember, I've been refined for quite a few years already.
Right.
Like 7 going on 30. So you have to understand that you grow up very different in these countries. So anyway, so then thankfully we landed in Bimini. Like I say, nobody on that plane was supposed to die that day. So we were all safe. We landed in Bimini, and then my uncle came to pick us up, and it took us about another month being in Bimini. What Bimini was definitely not what it is today. It was nothing.
I feel like a complete idiot right now because my mind is totally blanking. Where's Bimini?
Bahamas.
Okay.
Yeah, it's okay.
Sorry.
You're from the Midwest. It's a tiny little island in the Bahamas. It's a tiny little island in the Bahamas.
Okay.
It was just like an airstrip, and like it was not what it is today, where people go there on vacation in these beautiful, expensive homes, and it's expensive or not. But it wasn't that back then.
It was raw back then.
I was very raw, and nothing. Then my uncle came in. We came into Miami, downtown Miami, at about 9 o'clock at night, November 2nd, 1984. I'll never forget that because I was sleeping, and I woke up and I just saw the skyline of Miami, which wasn't what it is today, but it was very impacting. We're all from a third world country, and for like the next 3 years, every Mother's Day card, every school project had the skyline of Miami. Because it was so impacting to me. I still have them. I swear to God, I have them. My mom has saved them. It's like a knitting project, like those knitting projects that had like the little things. I even have that of the skyline of Miami. So crazy. And then we just
but what's like the main emotion that came? Was it relief? Was it awe? Was it wonder? Was it like, I
I
don't
think
know.
safety. I
Safe.
think it was like, wow, we're okay. We're okay. My
Okay.
mom's okay. Like I got to see my family that I didn't remember. They left when
Mm.
I was 3. So my grandparents left when I was 3. My uncle had left when my other uncle had left when I was 3. I had never met the one that left in the 60s. I had cousins that I didn't had never met that were born here. So it was like, okay, now it's not just the 3 of us. And nothing. Then we went to the Social Security office the next day and we had asylum back then. So we were able to just apply for a parole and then from there for our residency and then, whatever, so on and so forth.
All the processes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, let's make a statement. You are legal, sister. You did it the right way.
I know it's such a sensitive thing. And people ask me that a lot. That's actually a question I get a lot. Like, how do you feel about the immigration? And I said, it's a hard topic. It's a very hard topic because I totally understand. I am one of those people that was fleeing a country that is completely backwards and destroyed and you have no real future of any kind. What about the people that do? We were lucky because we did have asylum, but the people that have been applying the right way, why should they take back seat and have spent the money that they spent, take a back seat to the people that are coming in illegally? The other part of that is the unsafety of people that are now being vetted. That's the biggest problem. And I think obviously you and I know, being in the world that we're in, and we're always so linked to diseases and people that have used drugs. And, we're seeing that unfortunately, everything's been let in, and that's not the right way to go about things. Do I feel bad for the people that are here to really truly make a difference in their lives? Yes. But you still have to get in line.
Yeah. I mean, we did. I mean, I married an Englishman, and even being such a close ally with the England at the time, a close ally with the United States, when we first were married, we were missionaries. We were so poor. I mean, we were making less than like 20,000. I mean, we were way like below poverty limit. So I couldn't sponsor him as a spouse for his visa. He was here on a religious workers visa. So we couldn't even apply for a fiance or spousal visa. So that's, we had to go and move back to England. And we were in England for a couple of years, and that's where our daughter was born. And it was, finally after my daughter was born, my parents were like, we want you back here. We'll sponsor him, and so like, and then finally, I mean, we did get the green card. But I mean, it was just this laborious, awful process. And then we were like, we are never going through renewal. Like, we're going straight for immigration, like naturalization. We were straight citizenship. Or like, we're not dealing with immigration ever again. And so as soon as he was able to, so like we had been married it took 9 years for him to finally naturalize.
Wow, that's a lot. That's a lot.
Yeah. I mean, it's a process.
I bet.
Yeah.
And I feel like, hold on a second, I'm sorry.
So yeah, we're kind of in the same boat. Don't like the system that it is, but it definitely needs change. But people need to do it the way the system is legally, regardless. It's never going to be a good system, I don't think.
There's so many things, so many variables. It's the same, like for instance, same thing with our food.
Yeah.
I think the way that our food is right now, right?
Oh,
and I'm just like, because I always think my mind automatically goes to who I have been, right? You're talking about what you guys used to make. I mean, my mom used to make $8,000 a year, for the 2 of us. My mom could not afford 2 McDonald's meals,
So that was here in the States?
Yeah.
So what did she do when you guys first arrived in the States? Like what kind of work did she do then to make it?
Oh my God. This is another thing that I think is a plus about being, the Cubans have always been known for being very ingenious and very
resourceful.
Good at very resourceful. We can pretty much make anything happen, right? I mean, you got people coming in here on boats that are made out of truck tires and tarp, right? And they cross 90 miles of treacherous sea. So my mom, I remember we were living in a 2-bedroom apartment with my grandparents and my uncle, his wife, and their 2 daughters. Obviously, we were tight. And then my mom started working in the factories here in the 80s in clothing, because like I said, we came from being jewelry makers and shoemakers. And she started working here in the factory. She used to make, I'll never forget it. She used to make like 2 something an hour back then, which I think was like minimum wage back then. And then she would take every side job. They would sell, like my mom, which is so funny because these sneakers have come back they keep fashion. Coming. Every 10 years, they resurface, which is hilarious to me. It was like she would buy really inexpensive sneakers that were Ked imitation, like Keds,
Yes.
were imitation of Keds. And then she would buy lace, these like lace cutouts, and then glue them. And
I know what you're talking about.
then she would sell these in the flea market. So we would do flea markets every weekend. My mom would do a flea market. She used to sew for anybody that needed sewing. And yeah, I mean, it was like you made money every which way. And then finally we moved out. I don't remember how long that took. I think it took like a little bit over a year. Then we moved out, and it was just with my grandfather and my grandmother, my mom and I. And then my grandfather had cancer at the time, and so he passed away. And then it was just my grandmother, my mom, and I. And we lived in a tiny little efficiency that had, it was 1 bedroom, and it had like a little, like 3 steps, and it had like the kitchen and a bathroom. And we had one, those sliding door closets, 2 night tables, and 1 dresser for 3 people. And my mom used to make my clothes because, we used to shop at Kmart or Zayres. I don't know if you guys had Zayres back then or were there, but we had them here in the East Coast. And we used to go to Zayres if going to Zayres was like me going to Gucci now, for God's sake. I was on clothes. I mean, I used to design my little outfits and my mom would make them. And so that was it. I used to design my little skirts, and my mom, like I remember right before school would start, I would design all my little skirts and my little tank tops and my little things, and my mom would make them for me. And that's what I would wear.
Was the birth of how you kind of started your business?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
I remember I was raised making shoes. So I used to say this all the time when I would be interviewed because of my other business. I would always say, I don't know what it is to live without a sewing machine sounding in the background. Only recently has that happened, but it's always been in my history. Yeah. Yeah, that's actually how that was born. My mom was working for somebody making dance clothes, and then she had a heart attack. She suffered a heart attack from God knows horrible eating and working like
Stress.
a dog.
Yeah.
Stress. My mom used to sleep about 3 hours a night. I mean, she worked like an animal. And I was going to the university at the time. I was at FIU studying biology. After she had the heart attack, she was like, she got fired from her job because her boss was, so kind. Yeah. But you know what? Out of hardship came an amazing thing. Because she fired my mother, we started our business. And I had that business for 24 years.
What was your business?
Well, it was Land Designs, which was like anything that's a startup that is, a mom and pop shop. I used to make clothing for my friends that were dancers. I used to do like band uniforms. I used to make prom dresses. You named it, I made it. And little by little, I grew, right? As it grew and as it grew, I just kept kind of like niching and niching and niching, and basically was dancewear and activewear. And I didn't have a brand for a long time. I was a starving artist for a very long time. I knew nothing of business other than hard work and grit, which really is amazing, but it only gets you to a certain amount.
Yeah.
And then I was fortunate enough to get a mentor and started getting like really lining up with people that started to teach me about business and big business. And then I started getting into masterminds and things like that. And my brand was born. I tried launching a brand in 2012 and took all my savings, and it plummeted, it fell apart.
It
died. Completely. I lost all my money. I back to like just grinding and making sure I could pay rent and my employees. I had employees at the time, and I've always had employees. I think I hired my first employee within a year starting the business, and then I tried again. I got pregnant with my daughter, and then I said, as soon as I had her, I was like, we're gonna do this. And that's when my mentor showed up in my life, coincidentally. He's like, if you're willing to give this another go, I will help you. And I said, okay. And I created the brand with 100% intentions of selling it. And that's exactly what I did. So that was great. I did that in 2000. So my second launch was in 2015.
Really?
We sold that in 2016. I sold $385,000. This little tiny mom and pop shop in the middle of Westchester here in Miami. Nobody would know it. I would go to these shows and have a booth along with Capizio and Block and the big, I'm talking about 135-year-old brands. And they would come visit my booth. They would come and visit my booth and be like, who is this? Who is this person?
Who's this little chica? She's got the Cuban fire in there. It's the secret sauce. My goodness.
Yeah, we grew very quickly. And was fortunate to meet a lot of beautiful kids and beautiful parents and do some really beautiful work. travel a lot, but it wasn't what I finally, it was my mom's, it was what I did what my mom wanted me to do. And I did that for a long, I think way too long, as an only child, really, like truly an only child. But and raised by a single mother, and as a Latin, you do not disobey your mother. You do not disobey your parents.
Yeah.
You do not. You honor your parents. End of story. And so I did that for a lot longer than I should have. And it was that Cuban guilt I couldn't get rid of. And then finally, I told my mother, I said, I'm sorry, I can no longer do this. This was what you wanted. I'm done. I did it till as long as I could. I think I did it as best as I could. But I want to go back to doing what I originally wanted to do, which was be in the health and wellness industry. So then I sold it. And then God had other plans again. And 8 months later, my husband was diagnosed with a stage 4 cancer. And my intentions were always to be a speaker and a writer in the health, especially in the mental wellness space. And that brought me to nutrition. Because of him, I ended up getting the nutrition degree that the certification that you and I both have, which is how we met. That's what led me to do that. I never did it to do it as a business. I did it to hopefully save, to help in the aiding of saving his life and creating a better life for ourselves and for our family. And now it's what I do.
So you went to the Nutritional Therapy Association. You went back to school with the intention to help your family, not really to start a new career originally.
Correct. I would
same thing.
Yeah, I had the conversations with the TAs, and I was like, she's like, well, you're not doing some of the little tests, the little quizzes or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, but I don't care if I don't do the quizzes. I'm not doing this I didn't even care to have the certification, to be honest with you. It wasn't until about halfway through it that I was like, it's kind of stupid for me not to do it 100% as far as like, the turning in the assignment type things. If I'm not to not do the requirements for the actual license, not just to do it for the knowledge, and you never know where this is going to take me. And so then I started to actually do more of the assignments and stuff like that and kind of do that part. But yeah, the intention was never to do it for a living. And now that's what I do.
So I have a question. When you went to your mom and said, I can't do this anymore, I need to do something else, how did she take that?
Nobody's ever asked me that question. That's a good question. I've played the mom role for such a long time. I have a much older mom. And because when we came to this country, she still to this day does not speak English. And I took on the role of parent in a lot of ways, not so much on the I guess the moral and that kind of stuff, but more on the everyday. Like my mom never saw a single report card. She never had to she never signed anything. I used to do everything. I still to this day make all her appointments. She just looked at me and she said, are you sure? Because you've gotten this far. I can't believe you're going to give up on something that you've worked so hard at. And I said, it's not giving up. I am actually going to finally honor myself and think and put myself first, which is very rare to do, especially when you're Latin, especially when you're an only child, especially when you're a woman, especially when you're not taught to do that at all. And I was like, I'm going to take this chance and I'm going to give myself, I deserve this. I'm 40 something years old and I'd like what I call the second part of my life to be more dictated by what I want. And she wasn't okay with it at the beginning. And it took her
really
months. Oh yeah. A few months.
Did she lay on any mom guilt or?
Yeah, a little bit.
You just kind of mope.
A tiny bit, but she knows not to push too hard because I have a little, temper we talked with her. She's on fire. So there's only so much she's willing to push where she knows I'm like, hey, enough. And then she knows that I won't be as communicative and stuff like that with her because I'm like, either you're going to back me up or we're not going to talk about it because the decision's been done. And give me a break. I was 46 years old. It's like, come on.
My mom tried to ground me when I was 20 years old and I'm like, I'm 20. You haven't punished me in 10 years. It was the summer before I got married. I think it was grasping at last straws,
Oh my God. We cannot turn into that. Please, let's make sure we check ourselves. Okay. Part of this friendship, it means that we get to check to not become that.
Right. But so how was there any point where, your mom just kind of came to peace with that? Is that still a place you guys don't talk, or is it something that she's just accepted? Or I'm just really curious because that was
No.
such a huge thing for you to do that, like,
No, and we made some really good money in the process too. And she
that
was like,
helps.
sure, yeah, you sure that you want to let that go? And I was like, yes, I'm positive. And then I go, you just need to trust me. Now it's funny because now she's like, I see that you work a lot, but you also like love it. I see you completely different. And even in her health journey, because my mom's had kidney cancer twice, she was diagnosed with lung cancer about a year and change ago. She has high blood pressure. She's had 3 stents in her heart, valve replacement. I mean, she's got like 18 lives at this point, but
Right?
she at first was like typical Cuban that I am only going to do what the doctor says. And I'm like, once I started to, also what we went through with my husband, and she saw that. And then I started to apply all of the changes to her. And she actually scores lower, right? Which is when you're doing an analysis for like Parkinson's and Alzheimer's and all that, they do a yearly evaluation that is clinical.
Okay.
So she has to do specific movements, and it's not anything that they can really see other than the small strokes that she's had.
Mm.
She continues to score lower. A lower score means better. And they don't understand how.
So she
Because,
keeps getting better in her scores
yeah.
each year that she.
Yeah, and I've taken away, she was on 13 meds. She's now only on 6 a day.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
And
Wow.
now she's like, I am only going to do what you say. I'm only going to do what the doctor says. And with the lung cancer,
Yes.
she's doing amazing. And the
She's-
doctors keep asking me, how come she doesn't have any shortness of breath? She doesn't, I'm like, nothing. She walks 40 minutes twice a day. And now I have a friend of mine who's a PT who's going to be showing me all these exercises. So we're going to start training her because she's been lifting 2 pounds.
Okay.
So now I'm going to do actual like exercise. I'm coming up with a whole little like exercise that I'm teaching her healthcare worker, the aides that help her for her to do, because it also keeps her active throughout the day. And it gets fun for her. And my mom's fun too, though. She's a fun cat.
She's
always
feisty Cuban. She likes to keep going.
Yeah, I'm actually feistier than her, believe it or not. I'm feistier than my mother by far.
I
Really
believe
more
it.
chill than I am. More intense than my mother by far, for sure.
So you had mentioned your husband's cancer journey. Is that kind of what really motivated you to get into the nutrition space and health and wellness space, or is health and wellness something that you were always passionate about, and then it just kind of all seemed to happen at the same time in your life with needing it and then being able to pursue it?
Okay, so
That's a really long question.
oh, that's okay. I'm gonna go at it in this form. So after his cancer, or during his cancer diagnosis, I realized that I never really understood what the word surrender meant. Beautiful word. It has such a beautiful sound. It starts with an S, and it's like surrender. It's this beautiful, extremely difficult word to really practice. And it was associated to me, it was associated with giving up. I always felt like surrender had, this connotation of I gave up, and I am a good Cuban that doesn't give up. I'm known for my resilience and the ability to power through anything, right? Very, very hard concept for me to come to terms with. And so, I was so broken during that time, because we've always been healthy people. We've never smoked. We're not drinkers. We'll have a wine here and there. He would have a whiskey here and there, but once a month, maybe twice a month, because we went to dinner with somebody kind of thing.
You guys were triathletes, right?
Correct. Triathletes. We've been athletes our whole lives, overall good relationship, typical marriage stuff, but nothing, toxic of any kind. We don't have a lot of, we have a lot of friends, but not groups that are, toxic stuff. We really don't have a lot of toxicity in our lives when it came to emotional stuff of people around us of any kind. And so it was very difficult to even understand where that was coming from. So number one, I sold my business to become a speaker and a writer in the health and wellness, really like mind, body, spirit. And when this happened, I really just surrendered to God's will and said, you know what? I'm going to do whatever you want me to do. Like, I'm done planning what I want. I need you to tell me what you want me to do now, and I will go do it. If what you want me to do is help people with cancer, then I'm going to do it. If you want me to, yeah. And so that's why it's birthed in the manner that it's birthed till now. And I do one-to-ones with cancer patients that are either going through treatment or post-treatment. And so we work a lot on nutrition, on detox, and supporting the body so that it can handle whether they're doing radiation, chemo, or getting ready for surgery or post-surgery. All three of those, and including immunotherapies, are very toxic to the body, and it's already diseased and toxic to begin with. Otherwise, cancer would not have expressed itself. And so those are the things that I do in my program. I have a 3-month program, and it is a one-to-one. And in the very near future, I will be launching a group program, which I'm very excited about it. I know I am very excited. It is very emotionally intense to do one-to-ones. Yeah, I come into people's lives in a way that they're very vulnerable and going through a lot of pain. I support the caretakers in a lot of ways too. I get to know people's biggest fears and traumas. So it's a lot on me as well. But like I said, I'm doing God's work. And my intention still is to be a speaker and a writer and kind of funnel to the people that I'm hoping to hire for my coaching. And that's the idea, right? So, I mean, I still talk to God about my dream, and I still tell God, this is what I really want to do. But in the meantime, this is where I'm at, and this is where he has me, and I'm doing that.
I love it. You went from pursuing a career and a life that was put on you by a mom, you know, in previous generations, and you decided you wanted to do something for yourself. But in that, you chose surrender, you know? So like, and what I think is really cool is that in your surrender, God took the dream that he'd already placed within your heart, and he said, yes, let's do it. You know what I mean? So it's like, yes, surrender is scary because it's such a strong connotation with failure. But when you surrender to the Lord, it's like, it's amazing because so many of the dreams that you have in there actually really are originally yours. They're originally from him. And he's like, finally, let's go, let's do this. And when you do it his way, it just takes you on a whole roller coaster ride of like, wow. You know, that's what I'm kind of hearing you say, like, just
well, I love that you say that because that's 100% what it is. I remember being 12 years old, living in this little efficiency, like I told you, that I was living in with my grandmother and my mom, and I would sleep, you know, in the bed with my mother. We had a full bed and my grandmother in a little twin bed next to her. And I would always go to sleep at about 9, you know, because I had school the next day and I was in every sport known to man. And I remember that I used to dream about, I would see myself on a stage with thousands of people in front of me and me speaking on stage. And back then I thought that was what it meant to be a psychologist. Don't ask me where I put the two things together.
That's funny.
No. Yeah, because this is like
Jordan Peterson's like the only psychologist that's doing that right now.
Exactly. And this is like before Tony Robbins type thing, right? I didn't even know who he was back then. So I was 12 and I remember so that's actually why that's the dream that I held on to that really prompted my selling of the business. That was it. It's that memory that I have of me dreaming about this almost every night before I would go to bed. Wow. And you know, I'm still holding on to it because I do believe that you're 100% right. He is the one that put that in my heart. I was 12, you know what I mean? Like God put that
12-year-old dreams of doing something like that, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, especially in the context of psychology or a psychiatrist or something. Like, it's one thing like today, because we see so many with social media and TV and whatnot, we see singers and rock stars on the stage. But the speaking thing you don't see, you know, like, where would you get that idea to even begin with?
Well, let's start with I can't sing a wealth of. So that would have been, I don't think God would have done that because then I would have been going down a very non-successful road.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah. So I can't hold it to save my life. But yeah, you're right. Like what kid at 12 years old is thinking I'm going to be a psychologist on stage and helping people? My intention was always to help others. Mm-hmm. I think because I've gone through so much, and I think you know this, you know, it is to go through so much and let's call it trauma, you know, trauma with a, you know, capital
T, little T,
and other smaller T's, but it's really a lot of trauma. And so I think when you go through a lot of things in life and you surrender and you manage to keep your heart open, which I think is the key, the only thing you really want to do is help others because you don't want anybody else to feel the way you have felt. Yeah. So that I guess that must have come from somewhere about that. You know, I was always very mature. I was like, I'm telling you, I was an 8-year-old, I was 30. So by 12, I must have been like 60. I mean, really.
And it, you know, you were also kind of like a Gen Xer. We kind of are you're Cuban fire Gen Xer. So that's like a Gen Xer on steroids right there. Pick yourself up by your bootstraps. And we seem to live a decade older than what we actually were.
It's true. It's so true.
We just, yeah. our generation was just, I don't know what it was. We were, at least I remember, and you know, my friends in my age group, like we were expected to take care of ourselves. And then me, I was the oldest of five, and then it was me. I had to take care of my brothers and sisters. My mom left me home alone with my brother to babysit him. He was 3, 4, 3, and I was 6. I remember this, you know, like my mom would go to the grocery store, and I was 6 years old when I first started babysitting. Like it was just kind of like, I remember that and just being like,
Well, I mean, it was insane. We had cars that had no seatbelt. There was no headrest.
oh, it
No
was the best
thing.
time ever though, because you
I
could jump
remember we
around
would
and
sit in the back seat, and every time my
Yes.
mom would turn, you would roll away, and it was fun. And you would be just rolling in the back seat like
And it
this.
really convenient when you were also in the back seat and your parents were swapping to smack you, so then you could jump into the trunk or jump so you couldn't get hit, you know, because that was just that was the other joy of not being seatbelted.
It's so funny because my daughter, we were having lunch earlier, and my daughter's like, we were just having a conversation of how I think sometimes nowadays, parents do cradle their children a lot. And I was reading an article that came out in New York Times yesterday, as a matter of fact, on boys and the development, specifically for boys, and how we are seeing men of well into their 30s still living with their parents and incapable of, heading a life where they're profitable and living their own lives. They're still attached to their parents, and how they've been told their mental health is seriously suffering. They've been told for so long that their masculinity is toxic, and kids and boys are suffering, right? And the article went on about that. And I was talking to my daughter, and I said, it is important that, because I don't so I think that there's multiple reasons for that. I do think food plays a huge part, and processed foods and sugar and low testosterone levels and all of that, which obviously you and I know about all about that. But I do think too that parenting has changed a great deal, where my daughter, I'm tough love. I really am. And my kids crack up because they're like, we know that there is a point where mom will be just like,
She
suck
loses
it up,
it.
buttercup, and make it happen. I don't care.
Mhm.
We're done with the feelings. I understand your feelings. I hear your feelings. It is now time to take action and move past it. End the story. We must take action and move past it. I understand. If anybody is sympathetic and empathetic, is me. But I need you to get over the fear, get over that initial, I don't know how to do this. I'm scared to do this. I don't like the way it tastes, or XYZ, right? I see parents that I talk to parents often, and they ask me, because I speak at schools for to kids regarding nutrition and the importance, especially for mental health. And a lot of the parents will contact me like, oh, but it's just that they don't like the taste of chia seeds. They don't like how broccoli smells. And I'm like, okay.
Butter and salt on it.
But I can offer you some creative things.
Right.
At some point,
You gotta like call a
You
spade a
just
spade
gotta
and say,
own
this
it.
is it and this is it.
Exactly.
You get what you
I
get, and
always
you
say-
don't throw a fit.
Right, like Mrs. Doubtfire. It's such a great movie, because she's like, I'm making one meal, and
Yep.
you're sitting down and eating that meal.
Mhm.
And that'll be the end of that. And I think that, how does that translate to when we're talking to parents, is that I say to them, the reason that they're also telling you that is because they haven't developed a palate yet. How else are they going to develop a palate if they're not trying it? So yeah, go ahead and get creative about it, but you can't continue to let the child be the one guiding,
The dictator of it all. Yeah.
dictating what they eat and don't eat. Of course they're going to want to eat sugar. Of course they're going to pick the candy bar over the
Yeah. The
You know,
chemically processed food that's designed to trick their brains into thinking it's amazing and wonderful, and basically gives them it's basically like letting them choose their cocaine.
100%. And then you're wondering why these kids are suffering. And
Yeah.
that's the part that I talk a lot. I'm like, guys, everything is hard. There's
Mhm.
hardship everywhere, right? And you have to choose your hard, right?
Right.
Having a hard conversation and avoiding, future problems. Learning to eat something new that's going to be healthy and start to build a more healthy relationship with food. Yeah, that's hard. We're going to have to change a lot of things. And change isn't always easy, but being sick in a bed full of tubes is way harder. So
More expensive too.
your
Yeah.
heart.
I know. My husband is a foodie, and even like way before we got married, his father is a big foodie. And so they traveled all different kind of countries because being in England, close to Europe, they traveled all over the place for
Yeah. So
vacations.
great.
And so they're always trying things and wanting to try the most weird thing and something new. And so when our kids were around, he was like, we are going to make it a habit that whenever we go to the store, the kids are going to pick out something they've never tried before. And we're going to have them try it, and they get to choose it. They get to pick it. And then when they got old and then it was the garden. I let them choose what we're going to grow in the garden. They get involved in the process. And then all of a sudden a fruit or a vegetable that they would never touch before, all of a sudden they just couldn't get enough of it because they had invested all this time and emotion into growing this beautiful plant in a pot on the porch, like cucumbers or sugar snap peas or, call it whatever. But just, yeah, getting them involved in the process. And I'm so grateful that he was like that because now my kids, it was so funny. We took them to Disney World years ago and we took them to the Moroccan restaurant. Oh my goodness. And I will never forget their faces because they were watching these plates go by of all this amazing food. And the waiter comes over and hands them each a kid's menu that has like chicken nuggets and hot dogs. And they both looked at each other and they both started to cry because they're like, we're not allowed to eat the good food. It was just like, can we eat adult food? They were tiny. I think they were like 10 and 7 or something, but like, I mean, little, but like it was and the waiter was like, wait, what? Like super shocked.
Right, because that's not the norm.
Not normal. And so I was like, I guess we are a little bit of anomaly, but because my husband's just likes weird trying new things and always tasting new things and experimenting with new things. But yeah, their friends, it makes it a challenge when they bring their friends over. And then we like my son for one of his birthdays, he did a sushi bar. So like it was make your own sushi. And we had all the things you could put in a sushi roll then he had like 10 boys over. And I think he's the only one who's ever had sushi. I think it was like his 9th or 10th birthday. And all the boys were like,
when's the pizza getting here? Papa John's. We need 6 larges.
I think it kind of helped that they like could make their own, and then they were like, this is actually good. But you're right. I mean, so the challenge is always when my kids bring their friends over to the house and I'm always like, are they going to eat what we have? And it's like, do we just keep a box of like frozen chicken nuggets in the freezer just in case, so they don't go hungry or.
Well, my daughter was joking about this. Like when kids come to our house, we have like hummus and carrots and all these like healthy things. And we go to other people's houses and they have candy and pizza and a lot of stuff that, we just don't eat anymore. We did before we knew what we know now. And it's interesting because my daughter, she laughs because we really it started like I said, it started with my husband and we thought we were healthy. Let's be real. We thought we were, like I said, we were athletes and we used to, cook 5 times a week here, but we were still ordering Uber Eats. We were still eating out tremendously with all the seed oils and not really knowing, because a lot of it is that we just don't know what we don't know. And so that not having the awareness, you don't even know what to ask for. You don't even know what questions to ask and what to be careful with. So once we started this journey, which my husband says that cancer in a way was he likes to say the word blessing. I'm not there. I don't say
You're
that.
not there yet.
No, I'm not there. For me, more is like, I really appreciate the awareness and I really appreciate that it's moved us into this space that we're in now. But now we understand, oh my God, the things that he was doing to his body and the level of toxicity that we were putting in our bodies, even though a lot of people think, oh, because you work out, we've never been anybody that has been overweight. He used to fluctuate a little bit more. He's a big guy, 6'3". So he can hold a lot of weight without it looking
like weight.
Lightweight, exactly. But still, he was a good, honest to God. No, now he's 200 pounds and he was about 235. Yeah, he was about 35 pounds over what he should have been at. Me, I've never ever had any issues with weight, but that has nothing to do with being healthy.
Mm-hmm. I know.
And that is the part that I speak to a lot of people. They're like, well, I work out 5 days a week. And I'm like, well, that could also be stressing the hell out of your body too. So
you could be giving yourself a heart attack by doing that,
Yeah. Well, how many marathons don't just drop dead? Yeah. So, but once again, we're not taught that. We don't know that. We
Mhm.
don't understand that. That's not something that's passed down by our parents. Now, people like you and me, and I think a lot more people are becoming aware. Thank God, one of the pluses of social media, our kids are growing up different and they're having an awareness that we are got to know what in our 40s, right? Or I
Mhm.
forget how old you are, but
I'm not that much younger than you.
so I always forget because I always think you're a lot younger than me. I always think you're 38. I don't know why.
Oh, God bless you, sister. I'll take it. That's right. Take a decade off my life.
Such a baby face. So to me, I always think you're
All
38.
the inflammation right now that I'm battling with this mold.
Stop it. But
Oh
yeah,
my-
so our kids are growing up a lot with a lot more awareness and,
Mhm.
and conscientious of what they're doing. So yeah, I mean, it's our job and our duty to continue to put this info out with
Oh
what
my
you're
goodness.
doing in your podcast.
Okay, so what so right now you've started a practice. Basically, we work one-on-one with can't or do you work mostly with just cancer patients and their families, or do you work with other people?
It's mainly cancer patients. I do have people that are post-treatment, and I do have people that are cancer that don't have any cancer and they're just trying to prevent any major illnesses. So that we do a lot of detox. I do a lot of detox with them. That program is a lot shorter.
Mhm.
The 3 months program that I currently have is specifically for cancer patients or post-treatment, so they can detox from
All the treatment.
the treatment, but also understand what are some of the things that was keeping them sick. What ends up happening, or what's been happening a lot, which is breaks my heart, is that most people come to me not when they're diagnosed. They come to me when they're about 80 to 100 pounds less. And at that point is when they are triggered to actually think about food because the system has wired it that way. And it is the saddest thing in the world. So most of the clients that I have are in a very diseased state. I have a colorectal stage 4. She was 107 pounds when she came to me. She is currently 142 pounds. She is no longer on chemo. She's been battling it since 2021, 4 rounds of chemo. None of them have worked. On the contrary, she's had more tumors. She's decided, I'm done. I am going to go in completely integrative at this point. She now has gained weight. She was gaining a little bit while she was in treatment, and now she's doing a lot of the integrative and repurposed drugs, as well as her nutrition is on point. And she understands now the relationship that she had with food was extremely toxic. We're also detoxed her in many ways. There's a lot of the practices that we put in, like detox baths, red light, sauna, coffee enemas, like all these things are part of the program. Oral health is a massive, massive contributor.
It's wild how connected the mouth is to everything.
Well, yeah, to everything. Exactly. Because
Everything.
the brain health. Exactly. So yeah. And then that's the program that I have one-to-one. But yeah, I mean, unfortunately, a lot of the people that come to me are very, very diseased because they tell them at the hospital, just eat whatever you can. And so get all this diarrhea. They have all of these vomiting. They can't handle the side effects from the chemo treatments. They're extremely sick. And at no point, and with cancers, it happens very quickly. But normally they've already been in treatment for years, like 1, 2 years, even sometimes 3 if they've been able to hold that long. And nobody's addressed the food. Nobody has addressed the food properly. It is the most mind-boggling thing to me. And I asked them, I'm like, at what point did you guys think that the food was really important? And they were like, well, they kept telling us to just have these shakes that they give them at the hospital.
Like those Ensure shakes or whatever.
The Ensures, there's a few other brands that they do. And then to eat whatever
Toxic.
I could hold down. I'm like, that's not a strategy of health. That is a strategy for disaster. As clearly you have experienced that, and that's where we're at. And we've had a lot of wins with a lot of the clients, and but I've also, have gotten clients where they've passed away because that's it. I mean, they were 80 pounds. I've had a man that was 220 pounds when he started treatment, and in less than 8 months was 80 pounds. And unfortunately, I did get him. I didn't even charge them. I didn't charge them when I met them at the hospital. I was like, this isn't going to happen, but let's see how we can help him. The wife was like, please, I just need him to eat something. And I did. I got him to eat. There's a bone broth recipe that I have that is our personal recipe, which is like, we call it levanta muerto, which is like raise the dead type thing in Spanish. And I put him on
that recipe, girl. I do.
It really is amazing. I'll happily share it. So I was, I had the protocol for that. And so he was drinking 4 ounces of it every 2 to 3 hours. And within a day and a half, he asked to get up from bed and be bathed. When I met him at the hospital, it was like a person that was like this. It was literally a skeleton with skin. And from there, I said, okay, is he hungry? And she's like, he's actually hungry. And I said, perfect. That's what I needed. That's what that soup will do. That broth will do. And it opened up his appetite. And we actually moved to purees, and he was having purees, and we were putting in some of the protein into the puree, and just so that he wouldn't have to chew, because they have so many oral issues. Sometimes they have sores in the mouth, very difficult for them to swallow depending on the treatment. Anyways, so he went on to purees, and about 5 or 6 days into me working with him, the wife was like, they had stopped all treatment because obviously the guy could barely handle an Advil, I think, and they pretty much just had him on IVs. They had suspended treatment because they were like, nothing's working. And they had been on a chemo pill, which they had halted for that week that I was with him. And the wife was like, he's doing a little bit better. I'm going to give him the chemo pill. Oh, no. And I cannot, obviously, that we cannot override anything or even make suggestions when I said, and I said, listen, that is 100% up to you. I think he's still very weak. I think if we focus on feeding him for another week, we could actually gain maybe 2 pounds
back into his cells. Yeah.
And get him to be a little bit more coherent, and maybe get him out of bed more and get him to be a little bit more mobile, because you'd be surprised how magical food is, right? And what it can really do for us quickly. Our body responds, especially at that point, our body will respond quickly. Unfortunately, she gave him the chemo pill and he passed away the next day.
Oh, the next day?
It's just that body wasn't going to hold. It was just so toxic at that point. It was anything else. And I've had a few that's been like that. And it's bad. I mean, it's sad because the system is not programmed right now. And I get it. I don't have anything against oncologists. We're very fortunate that we had the team that we had, but they just don't know. They don't know anything about nutrition. And the nutritionists that work at the hospitals don't know either. Yeah. They're telling these guys to eat pasta and rice and whatever they can. And these nasty shakes. I'm like, guys, if that shake can sit on a shelf for a year, I guarantee
there's no life in it. It's not going to bring you life.
Yeah. Exactly. And I said, I will teach you. You want shakes? That's okay. Sometimes we need shakes and we need purees depending on what stage they're in and, what the chemo does to them. But just please don't eat anything that's coming off of a box. Everything is made fresh. And that's part of what the program does. We show them or give them all of the recipes. I show them exactly what ingredients to put in, what brands to use. So there is a lot of hand holding, especially at the beginning. And I've had people graduate from the program already and do very well.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And that's basically it right now. And I do have some clients that, like I said, are non-cancer patients. They're just women that are in their mid to late 40s that are just they're obviously in perimenopause and they're trying to detox from certain lifestyle practices I've had till now and just be more conscientious about the food and the relationship with food and using food as health. And that's been fun because it's a lot funner and a lot less heavy emotionally. Yeah. That's it.
That's exciting. That is really, really cool. Wow. That's you're a treasure. You're just a treasure, Liz. I'm so honored to know you. I'm so honored to
I'm a fan, so stop it. I always think you're smarter than I am, 100%.
What in the last year has been one of your main lessons, do you think, in this journey and change of career and health? And like, what is one of the main lessons that you feel like God's been teaching you or trying to show you?
I think pray about absolutely everything. Pray it up and then listen and let him guide you. I think that's the key because I'm speaking 100% for myself. I've always, like I said, I've been a person that's been able to grind and been able to hustle and have put grit into everything. And I'm like, I'm going that way because that's what I want. And this is going to happen no matter if I fall and trip and kill myself. And there's amazingly awesome things to say about that type of resilience and attitude and like not giving up. But having to reframe that on the other side and understand when you are just pushing against something that is not meant for you. And the only way to know the difference between the two is to be connected to God and understand when he is telling you this door isn't opening for you because it isn't for you. And the more you knock your head in that, so stop it.
Yeah, I've been there.
I mean, I'm the queen of that. Let's be, and
Surprised my forehead isn't like permanently bruised. I feel like a little wind up toy that's like constantly and I'm like, but you say to knock and keep on knocking and the door will be open. That's what you said, right?
And so I think a lot of that is because we listen to scripture, we hear scripture, and then we interpret it the way that we want to interpret it and use it the way that we want to use it. But that's where the listening to him, right?
Mhm.
Paying attention to the Holy Spirit and the signs, right? I always say this. I've been saying that always. This is my new motto, right? I'm like Hansel and Gretel now. I go and I'm like, oh, God left me a morsel here. I'm going to be right here. And then I'm going to go look for the other one over here. Oh, here's the other one. As opposed to paving or going down the road that I thought was the best road.
Being a bulldozer.
Yeah. And so I am in a space where there's a lot of uncertainty, which obviously when you get a diagnosis like cancer, that's the main theme is uncertainty. But at the same time, it's different now because I feel supported. I don't know exactly how everything's going to go, but I'm not interested in it. I'm interested in the journey. I'm interested in seeing how things unfold. I'm interested in that magic and that relationship that I have with God. And that's my number one, having the relationship with Him and doing what He wants me to do versus like even any of the dreams that I have. I've surrendered my dream to Him already. I'm like, if you know what, if you don't want me to be the speaker, I'm just telling you, I really want it. But that's not what you want me to do.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a friend that she always says this, bless it or block it. And
Bless it or block it. Oh my goodness. I need that on a shirt. I'm going to write that on a post-it and put it on my mirror. Bless it or block it. That is genius. I love it.
I know. That's what when she said it to me, I was like, that is brilliant, short, sweet, and very clear. So, yeah, bless it or block it. And so we have to understand the difference between the two. Like, when is it really time to grind and push through? And when is it that door is just not meant for us? And that's not what He's trying to guide us down and being able to shift and understand that. And that only comes through a daily relationship with God. So that's the main thing that I've learned through, obviously, that involves surrender through this whole journey of cancer, and also because I see it in my patients.
Your husband's doing okay now with it, right? Like, because he got the diagnosis a couple
January 11th, 2023. Yeah, we had surgery. The first surgery was January 10th. Sorry, so it was an appendix. He had appendiceal adenocarcinoma, and we were grateful that it actually gave him appendicitis. Thank God for that.
So is that how you found out?
Yeah, it's a very silent type cancer. By the way, it's an article that came out yesterday about appendiceal cancer, which is an extremely rare cancer that you really see in 1 to 2 out of 1 million people per year. Just to get an idea of how rare it is. And they know very little about it. It is now quadrupled in the ages, listen to this, ages between 18 and 49, meaning under 50.
What?
Because it's so correlated to colorectal. And so, yeah, that just came out yesterday. The the Appendix Cancer Association, whatever, they just, as a matter of fact, they posted about it today. And I was reading an article yesterday about it. And it's actually very serious because it's also a cancer that is it's like a mucus that is secretes that starts to envelop the organs and make everything sticky. So it's not really where it has a lot of tumors. So it's not easy to detect on a scan. You could have, our metastasized tumor that was sitting on the top of our small intestine, on his small intestine, the day before his surgery, the scan did not detect it. They told us it doesn't seem that he has any tumors. And when they went in there, which was the second surgery on March 9th, when they went in there to remove part of the colon to check for his lymph nodes, he went in there robotically. And when he was looking in there, he saw that the small intestine was like in a section, like it was moved and shifted in a way that isn't normal. And he was like, he's actually a friend of ours, our surgeon. He knew right away because he specializes in this cancer, that something wasn't right. And so he removed the lymph nodes, had those checked. Thank God they were all clear. He checked 52 of them.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, God bless.
Biology or physiology lesson, you have lots of lymph nodes through your intestinal tract.
Exactly.
Byers patches, what are they called? So, yeah, this is where the name
I don't know. Actually, I was reading about that.
Byers
You're right. So anyway, so they, he went ahead, removed that, checked them all. and they check him like right on the spot. And then the surgery was supposed to be an hour and a half. And so it ended up being 3 hours. That's when I knew
Something was wrong.
yeah, I knew that they weren't going to come out and tell me, hey. And then he went ahead and decided, no, we're going to have to open him up. So then he had, they opened him up. It was a 12-inch surgery. And sure enough, there was a tumor sitting right on top of the small intestine. So they removed 2 feet of the small intestine, 2 feet of the colon, and then they sewed him back up. And they removed his omentum as well. Because one of the mutations of appendiceal cancer is that it also gets into your peritoneum. Once it's in the peritoneum, it's one of the most deadly mutations because they're unable to remove that. So they have no chemo for it. The chemo that they gave us was for colon cancer. And so I can honestly tell you that was not what saved my husband's life. My husband is cancer-free today. Until today's, with God's grace, he is still cancer-free. And we get screens and scans and blood work. But we do a lot of the integrative side, and we do a lot of the blood work and a lot of the other stuff that's not through the conventional system because they really don't have a lot. They don't. It's still the same practices that were like 50 years ago. They're still using the same techniques, and they're always saying that they're so advanced, but it really
hasn't come as far as we think it has. Yeah.
No, at all. And like I said, once they told me, that's another reason why I went this way, Rebecca. When they told me that, there's no cure for this cancer, we're going to give you chemo for colon cancer. I'm like, well, he doesn't have colon cancer. And they're like, yeah, but this is what we got. And this is the protocol. And I'm like, well, my husband's not a protocol. My husband's not. They showed me a chart and they were like, well, he's here. See this dot? This is where he's at. And then so somebody in this area, this is the protocol for somebody. I'm like, my husband's not a dot on a piece of paper. Mm-hmm. When do you take my husband into consideration? His height, his blood type, just
anything personal about him at all.
Personal about him, right?
No bio-individuality at all.
At all. And so that's what really prompted my searching, right? And I always say this, I really believe that God, in all that story that I told you about how I got here to this country, what I went through as a child and understanding, what I was doing here and what I had to do here were 2 different things, and how to be resourceful and how to not take things just at face value. Yeah. I think God prepared me for my husband's cancer since I was little. And he says it too. He's like, I don't think I would be alive without you. And I say, no, you're alive because of God's grace and mercy. I was just used by the Holy Spirit. I'm a really good student.
You get a star. Good student. Woohoo. Good job. Well done.
I was in to follow instructions. I would pray every day, and I would pray and I'd be like, God, I'm going to go do whatever you want me to do today. And he would send all the right people walked into our lives that showed us the integrative side, that brought us to the NTA, that brought me on, the oncologists and the functional doctors from California. So brought me all of these modalities to treat him, differently than the conventional system. And the other thing that I want to make sure we emphasize, which is really important, guys, is if a person is diagnosed with cancer and they begin integrative treatment and nutrition, proper nutrition, specifically for them before starting treatment, even if it's after surgery, they will handle treatment better. They will have better outcome percent, 100%. I'm not saying it's going to save their lives because let's be real, not even oncologists tell you they're going to save your life, but the quality of the life and the quality of the way that you will experience the treatment will be significantly better. And so I want to make sure we put that out there because like I said, people come to me when they're 80 pounds. That's a lot to reverse.
Yeah, that's a lot of work.
That's a lot of work.
It's a lot of healing.
And it also, they're already on a very distressed state to now implement so many lifestyle changes because once you're diagnosed, you're going for a lifestyle change. And that lifestyle change could be positive or it could be negative or it could just be mediocre. It could go in any way.
Changes.
But it's hard. And it's hard because now you're not only dealing with the stress of what you're going through, you're dealing with the stress of even more change. And some people respond to it amazing. And they're like, man, I'm in 100%. And whatever you tell me to do, I'm going to do. And then there's people that will be a month into the program and they're still trying to nail down breakfast. Right. And so it's a lot, especially with the older patients that are 70 something,
Got more challenging.
Very, they don't eat. They just don't, they don't eat.
Well, because
1,000 calories a day.
I mean, well, you just lose so much happens the older you get. You lose your hunger cues, you lose your desire to eat, you don't want to drink your water. Like just drinking water can be a real battle once you
It
get,
is.
I don't know, I have a couple older clients too, and I'm like, can you just drink your water? Like, how can we figure out to just keep you hydrated? I
And a
think
lot
that'll
of
help.
people don't cook.
I know.
Becca, it is scary how much the practice of cooking is being lost from generation to generation. Listen, I had a 67-year-old cancer patient or client that didn't cook. She didn't cook. She didn't cook. 3 meals a day. 3 meals a day.
3 meals a day.
Barely knew how to cook. So that's passed down to her daughters and her children. And she had children that were in their 30s and 40s. Guess what?
They don't know how to cook either.
They don't cook either, unless they
Mhm.
married somebody that they're like, hey, you got to figure this out kind of thing. But unfortunately, this is part of why, yeah, there is a genetic factor to cancers,
Habit factor more
but
than
it's
genetic.
3 to 5%, where epigenetics, which we know are lifestyle
Mhm.
practices, and because that's also passed down. What's
Mhm.
passed down is not just your genes, it's how you do
Your
things,
habits. Yeah.
your habits, how you deal with stress, how resilient you are, how you deal with trauma, how you
Mhm.
communicate, how you interact with the world. That's real. So it's sad how many people use their counters to open Uber Eat bags.
It's really interesting that you say that because you know that I've created this health course for high schoolers and I'm in the process of like refining it and then it's been launched and everything, but my husband's like, okay, so what other courses are you going to create now? And the cooking, teaching high schoolers and college kids, like how, you know,
We used to have that. I had cooking.
I had
So
home ec in middle school one
yes.
semester, and it was honestly I had to learn how to cut an apple and bake a cake and, just basic skills. I think you can teach that through an online course. There are so many amazing YouTube videos out there that you can teach yourself how to cook. But I mean, my poor husband, when we got married, I didn't know how to cook anything. I mean, I was really proud of myself because I could marinate chicken in Italian dressing and broil it. And he would just kind of smile through his teeth. Yeah, good job, honey. And it tastes great. And it was always dry and terrible and disgusting, but he ate it with such grace. And then I could make chocolate chip cookies and mac and cheese. And that, like, seriously, I just did not know how to cook. I didn't even know how to chop an onion. I didn't know how to chop vegetables. I mean, I could chop an apple because I was taught that in home ec class. I remembered that, but I mean, that's not really a skill. Like, I mean, it is a skill, but like when you get married and you're on your own and you don't have very much money, so you have to be resourceful and you have to make your own food. Thankfully, God gave me a husband that grew up with parents that were caterers, so he could cook everything and make everything. And so yeah, I mean, through the years, he's taught me so much, and I can cook and bake just about anything now. But those first few years were really marriage and on my own were really like,
Was it because your mom didn't pass that down? Exactly.
oh my, and she didn't like cooking. She wasn't a very good cook. I mean, I don't think, which is really interesting because her mother was a home ec teacher and,
Oh,
I think she kind of did rebel, but she just never had interest in it. So there was and then I was an 80s kid. I had to figure things out on my own. We were kids that parents really didn't teach a whole lot. So I mean, I remember a few lessons that my parents taught me, but like, they were never intentional about that kind of thing. So we've been very intentional with our kids differently. We've had them definitely, you pick out a recipe, we're going to go shop for the ingredients, and then you take over the kitchen, you figure it out. So we've taught them basic skills and then they have to cook the meals to practice and
but I agree with you in the sense that I
they
wish
gotta learn.
that schools would bring these type of, and even just teaching them how to like balance a checkbook.
Oh my
What it is
goodness.
to
Yeah.
make basic food, like how to cook a protein, certain
Mhm.
proteins, just their way around the kitchen, how to
Mhm.
handle a knife, how to freaking use a blender, right? I mean, right? And
Basic skills.
basic skills for life. I guess I get, I love world history. I'm a total buff. I love art history. I love all that. And that's wonderful.
That's not
That's
going to
not
save your
going
life.
Thank you. Words I was going to use. And I'm like, I really think that they need to bring these type of classes back to school. That's a whole other ballgame. I know you're a homeschooling parent, so I definitely don't have to tell you. Because I mean, my kids are, they're in the school system kind of thing. They go to school like the regular conventional stuff. But even then, like everything else is being taught by us. And now, and I've always cooked here, but now I'm starting to, and I've always taught them how to clean and how to be organized and things like that. But now, as they've gotten older, we're putting in more.
Now you can play with fire.
And they were Montessori. They were originally Montessori kids, so they did a lot of that. Even little, they had the little, like, they had to cut up the fruit and serve their classmates, and it was so adorable. I know, so adorable.
But okay, well, okay. I've been ending these with a final question, and that is, knowing everything that you know now, if you could go back to your 16-year-old self and tell yourself one thing, what would it be?
Have more fun.
Have more fun.
So damn uptight and trying to cross every T and dot every I. Golly, I've always tried to be such a goody two-shoe. Not that that's bad, just I've been very focused. I've always worked very hard. I was always trying to do everything so right and trying to be perfect. And that is such a negative thing to do. And no matter what, life is so hard. I think life is hard. I really do. I think life is hard. And I think that having and enjoying life, truly enjoying life at every stage, whether you're in pain or going through hardship, is the key to being on your deathbed and saying, I left it all there. I did it. I did it. And I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go. And I want that feeling. And I think that especially the first 40 something years of my life, that I tried to live a life according to what everybody else wanted me to do. And I was always trying to do things so right because I didn't want to mess up for my mom and for my family and for blah, 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 all that stuff. I took life too serious, and just enjoy the process, enjoy whatever, even if the stage that you're in is a complete and utter disaster. Figure out to be happy in that and joyful in that, and find connectivity and blessings in it. And I think that that's what actually turns the tide anyways. Yeah, that's what I would tell myself.
I love that. I wish I could have said that to myself too. I never thought about that. I was just like you. I was scared to do anything wrong. I was, that you're, type A, have to be perfect. But I lived in such a shell of fear and insecurity that if I tried to have fun, I was scared if I had too much fun that it would be wrong. Like I just had this
right.
I never did the parties. I never did anything like that growing up. And I was too scared of getting in trouble that I never had fun. Not that saying that getting in, you have to get in trouble to have fun. There's lots,
No, but I get you. I totally.
It's okay to laugh and enjoy being with people and not take it so seriously.
Not take life so serious, man. Just enjoy the process. Enjoy where you're at. Live at your age. I had to grow up way too fast. Just enjoy, because everything else is work.
Right. Just enjoy being a teenager while you can before you grow up.
Enjoy being 20 and enjoy being 30 and enjoy going through the pamper and diaper stage with your child and enjoy them as a teenager, even if it's an absolute disasterly stressful time.
I love my teenagers.
I do too.
I do too. Yeah.
Not everybody has that, right? And I do too. I mean, I'm having a freaking blast, but not everybody has that. And I tell them, well, enjoy it because it's also going to go like that.
So fast.
And they're going to remember you always stressed out. And so even for me, I have to override that. I have to stop and be like, oh, okay, let me not be the Liz that, and override some of that trauma and say, let me just enjoy. You know what? It's going to be messy. Well, you know what? It's not perfect. Okay. You know what? I don't know how to do this. Okay. I've never done it before. And we might burn and crash, but it's okay. Right. And that's definitely what I would say to myself, what I say to myself now. I'm still talking to myself.
I know, right?
That's the daily conversation.
It's a great conversation.
I answer myself back in everything. Okay. Like that's where I'm at. I ask and answer.
Ask and answer. Hey, at least you're in agreement. Having a full thought. I'm amazed at how many people who actually don't process their thoughts that way. You gotta ask the questions and then think through the answer. It's just doing that is such a rare ability.
Conversations with myself. And I try to do what other points of view would be like. And It's fun. I might seem a little kooky, but
Oh, it's not okay. I think it's good.
I think it's great. I mean, I think I'm awesome. I don't know what to tell you.
I think you're awesome too. So
Not self-absorbed at all.
oh, no, you're not at all. You're
No.
amazing. Okay, friend.
I just want to say I really am so proud of you. And, I am your biggest fan. And I know that everything that you touch will turn to gold. And everything that you're building is going to be for the honor of God and to grace others with all of your beauty and all of your knowledge. And God's going to continue to use you and your family to bring awesomeness to everybody in this world. So I'm so proud of you, and I am going to always be here rooting for you. And you know that.
You're making me cry. You are my ultimate hype girl. Thank you so much. Thank you, Liz. I appreciate it. Really.
I appreciate you, and I love you
Awesome.
very much, beautiful girl.
And then I'll put links to where people can find you and work with you and everything in the notes. And so if anybody wants to work with you or eventually join your group coaching or needs help, they know where to find you.
Yeah, that is perfect.
Yeah. And anything else that you'd like to share or leave or?
No, my love. I
That's
think
good.
that, we covered a bunch of fun stuff. We've laughed, we've cried, we've done it. We did it.
Done everything but pee our pants. So I think we're good. We should stop here.
Yes, please. At this age, that could actually happen very easily.
There are a couple babies in this age.
Okay. Oh my gosh.
Okay. Thanks, babe.
Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Liberty Wellness. Just want to let you know that this conversation is meant to inspire and inform you and not to replace any personalized medical or mental health advice. Please always consult your trusted healthcare provider before making any changes to your care or protocols. I will put all of Liz's contact details in the show notes. And guess what? I also got a hold of her recipe for her miraculous rising from the dead broth. And so if you would like a copy of that, you can email me. I will put an email address in the show notes and I'll be happy to send you a copy of that recipe. It's pretty intense. I can see why it does what it does now. If you love this episode, please be sure to subscribe. Please leave a review or a comment. I would love to hear from you and know what you think, and share this episode with anyone who you think needs encouragement, inspiration, or just needs to hear it. Don't forget, you can connect with me on Instagram for more support and resources as well. See you next time.